Greetings, movie junkies and film lovers. Welcome to another retrospective. Today we're going to be taking a look at the classic 90s sci-fi series, SeaQuest DSV, which is very much considered to be, is a very highly influenced by the 60s series Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, and actually bears a lot of resemblances. In fact, some people would actually refer to this as Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea: The Next Generation, and it was very much coming off of the heels of the success of Star Trek: The Next Generation at the time. It's very much just kind of that, but set in the water, and there's a lot of similarities and stuff. But the basic premise is essentially that it takes place in the mid 21st century, aka 2018. It was kind of unlike Star Trek, they kind of set it a little bit more in the nearer future. Again, very much like Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. So essentially the idea is that Earth at that point has essentially colonized the ocean, and now with the SeaQuest, they're essentially looking to kind of go to the deeper depths and stuff than they've ever gone before and stuff like that. And throughout the series, they encounter all kinds of giant killer plants, underwater sea creatures, aliens and stuff like that. And the series borrows a lot of elements from Star Trek, and there's particularly with the kind of setup of the first season. It very much is. It can be fairly, I think, kind of classed as kind of a carbon copy of The Next Generation, but I think there's just kind of enough things that are kind of different that it kind of just kind of barely isn't, if that makes sense. I mean, it borrows a lot of stuff, a lot of various elements. Obviously the SeaQuest itself is very much based on the sea view from, of course, Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, but a lot of the various kind of cast and kind of character elements and stuff take a lot of inspiration from Star Trek. So it's kind of this. It takes a lot of different elements from things, but it's also so it's not the most original sci-fi show in the world. It wasn't like groundbreaking like the X-Files or anything. It is. It has been kind of forgotten about, but I think over the years it kind of has kind of gained a bit of a cult following status. And I think if you're a fan of particularly those classic 90s shows like Babylon 5, like Star Trek and stuff. It is definitely one that you should check out, because it is actually a pretty good series, and it lasted for about 3 seasons. There was about close to 60 episodes, and it kind of reinvented itself a little bit each season. The first season, like I said, is very much kind of a carbon copy of The Next Generation, which is fine. I mean, Roy Scheider is very much being kind of who's in the show obviously is kind of more of an playing kind of the very much Picard kind of role, kind of an older captain and stuff. You've got the character of Jonathan Ford, played by Don Franklin, who again is very much kind of like the Riker of the show. Of course, you have Jonathan Brandis, which I pretty much saw Jonathan Brandis in like everything growing up. I mean, obviously Ladybugs with Roger Dangerfield. Sidekicks is a fun one of Chuck Norris. Neverending Story 2, the original miniseries. He's punched like other TV shows like the original Flash, Monday She Wrote. Popped up and everything. And he's probably is really, I have to say, is actually really great here. Even though his character is very much, I guess, kind of the Wesley Crusher of this series, kind of more of a kind of teen genius. Although here, actually, funny enough, I think it's played better. I don't know why in this show it kind of works a little bit better. I know obviously a lot of people find Wesley Crusher annoying in Next Generation, but I mean that's Next Generation. We'll talk about that another time. But yeah, but he's actually a great character in the show, and there was a lot of cast changes throughout the series. I won't get in. There's a lot of characters in the show. You've got that throughout, but the show you do have Ted Raimi, and you also have John DeQuino as well, and a little later Michael Ironside, but we'll get to that in a little bit. It's weird because there was a lot of cast changes that were done to the series. You also do have, I know I was forgetting someone major, but you also have Stephanie Beacham as well, who plays kind of a very similar kind of Dr. Beverly Crusher kind of character in the first season. The first season, when it came out, it was fairly successful. I think it's kind of considered by most as, you know, the best season. And I think it definitely has the best set of characters of all three seasons. I mean, I personally think the first season was the best, because essentially what happened was, you know, the first season, you know, with season 2, what essentially happened was, because it had a lot of competition. Obviously, it had to compete with, you know, Star Trek itself at the time. Next Generation was still on at the time. It was kind of in its, I think, its 7th and final season. Of course, you had Deep Space Nine was also kind of on by that point, and also airing at, I think, at like the exact same time was Lois and Clark, the New Adventures of Superman, which I may or may not do a retrospective video on that at some point. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe not. And so it had a lot of competition. So with season 2, they tried to essentially kind of make it a little bit more exciting. Try to you know, reintroduce, you know, things, and the entire production of the series essentially moved from LA to Florida. And a lot of the, you know, the cast didn't really want to move to Florida and stuff, so they had to kind of, you know, there was a lot of cast changes that were made, and you know, two of the characters that I would mention that were brought in were Peter DeLuise and Michael DeLuise, who were both brothers and were the actual sons of course, famed actor Dom DeLuise. And in the show, they don't actually play brothers, oddly enough. They actually play two kind of separate characters. But with the second season actually starts off with what to me is one of the greatest episodes of the show, which is essentially a double-length episode called Daggers, which, to be fair, and I've heard some people kind of say this before, is kind of a kind of rip-off of, you know, kind of the whole, you know, Wrath of Khan thing with, you know, with Star Trek again, kind of taking kind of similar idea how it was these, you know, humans that were genetically, you know, modified and stuff. And they actually do end up taking the idea of the daggers and actually, you know, do some actually very interesting things in the series throughout the entire rest of the series from the start of season 2 onward. And it is a shame because it would have been cool to see kind of what, where they would have gone with that, because they actually did do some very interesting things with that. But the basic idea of the daggers is that they are essentially, you know, rebelling against, you know, humanity and stuff, and that leads to some kind of interesting storylines and everything. And with the second season, with some of the changes and stuff, it was a little bit more. With season 2, it definitely became basically a reboot of Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, and it was a lot more of the episodes were based on traditional kind of sci-fi, you know, stories and stuff, you know, with you know, monsters and aliens, and, you know, a lot more of the traditional, you know, regular kind of sci-fi stuff, which, as a sci-fi fan, you know, I dig that stuff, but unfortunately a lot of the cast kind of thought they was kind of getting away from the slightly more, I guess, kind of grounded, you know, first season. But I mean, the first season, you know, it still had some pretty, you know, the same kind of stuff. It just wasn't quite as much, I guess. So for me, season 2, I guess, to me, if you watch, I know a lot of people do not like the second season, but to me, if you watch it, I mean, I've also heard some people they like the second season the most, and, you know, people are actually quite indifferent about what, you know, of the series, and which seasons are, you know, the best and which one's the worst and stuff like that. I mean, I like the whole series. I think the whole series is great. It's really only like 2 episodes, which I would say in the second season, there's basically an episode called Vapors, which is basically just the SeaQuest crew on vacation. Like, that's literally just the episode. And the other episode is that there was a character, which was essentially in the second season, which was a very forgettable character called Wendy, which was basically a rip-off of Deanna Troi from Next Generation, and basically just completely blatant rip-off of Deanna Troi. And much like Deanna Troi from Next Generation, they don't have the greatest, they couldn't quite figure out what to do with that character a lot of the time, funny enough. So and they did one episode which is very much entirely centered around her, and it's pretty bad. And so really that episode and the other episode I mentioned were really only the two episodes of the entire series that I would say are bad. All the other episodes I would say are very enjoyable, or are even great. But yeah, so they kind of did that. But with that, there was unfortunately some kind of creative differences, particularly with Roy Scheider. Roy Scheider apparently, for whatever reason, really did not like the direction that the series went, and basically just completely badmouthed the show. And you can find his comments online about what he kind of said, and just basically referred to it as trash and all this stuff, all this kind of stuff. I mean, if you want to find out what it was that he said, you can look it up yourself. And I don't know, that's always something that's kind of not really sat well with me. I mean, I always thought it was very strange for him to just kind of completely just go against all the other people that work on the show and everything. I mean, if you really, didn't want to be on the show, you could just, not sign a contract for the first season or whatever, but so it's just always, it never really quite sat well with me as to why he did that and stuff. I mean, unfortunately, we a lot of this was stuff we may never really know exactly what happened. I mean, I've heard some kind of online and stuff, some reports that after that happened, he actually did apologize to the cast about what happened and stuff. But yeah, I don't know. We will never really truly know kind of all the behind the scenes kind of what went on. I mean, it's just the reality is it's just not that there's just not enough people to care that can really care about enough that that we really, there's not really many interviews with, the cast and stuff today where we can find out a lot of kind of what happened and what the development process was of the show. And there hasn't really been on the DVD releases and stuff, there hasn't really been a lot of like commentaries with like the writers and stuff like, or anything, or there hasn't been a documentary or anything. I mean, obviously, I do wish that there was some kind of a making of documentary on the DVD set. I mean, obviously, I know the perfect title for it would be, Beneath the Surface, the making of SeaQuest. But who knows? Maybe if there's ever some kind of a new release comes out, maybe we could get some stuff. But unfortunately, it seems very unlikely. But it really. So with that happening, that basically, and with Reigns also going down the second season, they decided they kind of changed things again. More of the cast members left the series, some new characters brought on, but significantly Roy Scheider was no longer the main character of the series in the first season. He still was in a couple of episodes, but the new captain we got was Michael Ironside, and Michael Ironside I thought was great in the series, and I think he was definitely a lot more better kind of fit for the kind of tone that they wanted as well. And they did a big kind of they completely redid the show quite a bit. Obviously, this is when they actually renamed it SeaQuest 2042, and because of a certain storyline in the second season, they basically took it even farther into the future. Still not really quite far enough, I think, to really have it be a really successful show, or I guess for it to have a very long longevity for the show, I guess, if that makes sense. And so it got a little bit. It was kind of like a mix between the first season and the second season, and with a little bit more kind of political kind of stuff put into it. So again, it's kind of taking from Star Trek a little bit more with what was going on. Again, very much like in Star Trek, of course, you have the Federation in Star Trek. Or here you basically do have that, which is in the form of the UEO, which is, can't remember what exactly that stands for, but it's United Earth Oceans. I think that actually might be it. It's something like that. But the third season is actually personally my favorite of the show. By that point, Jonathan Brandis' character of Lucas Wallenchek actually became much like Wesley Crusher Next Generation, actually became a member of the crew and everything. And to me, by that point they really found their niche, I guess, if you could say that they found like what they wanted the show to be. But unfortunately, by that point, it was too little, too late, and unfortunately got cancelled halfway through season 3. And luckily enough, the series doesn't end on like a huge cliffhanger and everything. And the last episode is actually really a good one to end on. And actually, one of the main characters actually does die in the final episode. But it does still kind of end kind of open ending, which is very unfortunate. But yeah, I mean, really, there's really only 3 people that stuck with the series throughout the entire thing, which was Don Franklin, Ted Raimi, and Jonathan Brandis. They were actually the only 3 cast members that actually stuck with the series throughout the entire thing. But oddly enough, Jonathan Brandis was actually the only one who actually was in every single episode. Oddly enough, so. Yeah, and actually co-wrote one of the episodes, which was interesting, and was going to make his directorial debut with an episode of season 3, but of course the series got cancelled before that could happen, unfortunately, and his career, unfortunately, as we know, kind of dovetailed downhill, and then of course, sadly, obviously, committed suicide. I think it was 2003, I think it was, which is very unfortunate, but. You know, it also kind of got a lot interrupted by, I think, a lot of like sports events and stuff like that, and a lot of the episodes kind of aired out of order. On the complete series DVD set, I have all of the pretty much the season 2 episodes are all kind of out of order. There's like kind of some inconsistencies with some of the 1 or 2 of the characters that kind of die in the series, how they die in 1 minute and then kind of show up the next, and then. The Bridger has like a beard, and then like 1 minute he doesn't have a beard, and then it goes back, and kind of so there's kind of some small kind of inconsistencies. But there is a more correct episode order to watch them in. But unfortunately, on a lot of the DVD sets and the home video releases that we've gotten, they are in the kind of the air date order, which is kind of a little bit messed up. Unfortunately, but over the years, the show has found its following, and there's actually a lot of people that do seem to. Really love and fall in love with the show. One of them is me, and I actually kind of it kind of started to get a little bit more popular when they started showing like reruns of it on like the Sci-Fi Channel and stuff, and that was kind of like wow I kind of saw it in kind of reruns and everything, and I think it's a really underrated solid show, and I think it's a shame that it kind of I think had it maybe come out just like a few years later, maybe it would have been. More successful. I think, but another problem that I think that they had is that the first episode of the series is honestly, like the pilot episode is honestly the best one, and I think they just could never quite match the great quality of that first episode. And it was actually directed by Irvin Kershner, actually, of course, directed Empire Strikes Back, and it was actually the last thing that he ever directed was the pilot episode of SeaQuest, and it's almost maybe it's looking back. Maybe they should have actually done it as a theatrical movie to begin with, and then do it into a TV series. Funnily enough, kind of like Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. That was kind of how it started as a movie first, but then became a show later. So in terms of SeaQuest being its availability, it's been released a couple times over the years. Region 1 and Region 2 land. It did get released. Universal put out the first 2 seasons. On DVD years ago. The first season had like a couple of like deleted scenes and stuff in terms of extras, but that was basically about it. And then in a couple years ago, here in Region 2 land, Medium Rare Entertainment actually did put out the complete series in this set here, which is I have, which unfortunately is actually missing 2 of the episodes. I don't know why, but for some reason on one of the discs, basically 2 episodes from the previous disc are actually lapped over in the place of where there should be the 2 episodes that are missing. If that makes sense. I don't know why that happened, and apparently I've been looking up a lot of like the reviews and stuff, and apparently this, as far as I know, that problem has not been fixed, as far as I know. So if you do buy the set, you do have to kind of keep in mind that there might be 2 episodes missing. And of those of you who are actually big fans of the show, the 2 episodes that are missing are actually both from Season 2, and they are the episodes Dagger Redux and The Siamese Dream. And The Siamese Dream is actually an important episode because that was actually the one that Jonathan Brandis co-wrote. And actually probably 2 of the best episodes from Season 2, so it kind of sucks that those 2 are two of the ones that are missing. But, but funny enough, this set also, if you look on the cover here, you might be able to not see it. If you look at Roy Scheider's hand, you notice that he only has like 3 fingers, which is very weird. I don't know why and it's not that picture either. It's like they re-edited it and stuff, and yeah, it's just I feel like this set it was made kind of cheaply. It wasn't really a whole lot of effort really put into it, and yeah, it's a shame that this is the most kind of definitive in terms of complete sets that we've got on DVD. I should mention there has been some Blu-ray releases. There's been in like Germany and Australia, but those are really really difficult to find, and also very pricey as well. So, but they do have the transfer stuff is better on the DVD releases. So if you can get those, I would recommend them. As far as I know, they're not missing any episodes or anything. But yeah, so it's kind of unfortunate now. I believe on the Wikipedia for SeaQuest, it says that Mill Creek are going to be putting out the entire series on Blu-ray. Now, I've tried and been looking everywhere else to see if that's ever been shown or that information has been released anywhere else, and then that's the only place that I've ever found it. So I honestly don't know if Mill Creek are putting them out on Blu-ray or not. I definitely hope that they are, because it'd be nice to have an actual, like, be able to buy the series in high definition and have it be actually more available to those in, Region 1 land and Region 2 land as well. So yeah, so hopefully that is something that's happening. But for now, this and if you can find like the Australian complete Blu-ray release or the definitive versions of the show that have been put out. And but this version, as far as I know, is actually the only way you can actually get season 3 on DVD. Of course, it has been released kind of on its own on Blu-ray though, again in like Germany and Australia. But if we take a look at this set quickly, it's nothing really too special to look at. It does have the deleted scenes and stuff that were on the season 1 set kind of carried over. But what I did was I was actually able to find the season 2 complete series set, which of course does have the correct episodes on it. And actually, what I did was actually change the disc, took the disc from the season 2 set that did have the correct episodes on it and put in this set instead. So I basically retrofitted it, and if I open it up here, you can actually see it. There's one kind of disc that's kind of out of place, and that's the one that has the correct episodes and stuff on it. And the discs are kind of on these hubs. They're kind of on these like weird raised hubs where the discs are kind of lapped on top of each other, which is, you find that in a lot of these kind of sets nowadays, where they're kind of just kind of stacked on top of each other like that. But the good thing is about these are the kind of hubs where the discs are kind of just even though they're stacked on each other, they are kind of slightly raised off of each other, so they're not quite touching each other, which is good. But yeah, so yeah, that's pretty good. So you got about 18 discs total. So yeah, so I would recommend this set, but just keep in mind that it is missing 2 of the episodes. But yeah, but if you're like me, you can there is a way that you can kind of if you can find the season 2 set cheap, you can kind of retrofit it to become a complete series set. But yeah, but hopefully we will be getting some kind of a new Blu-ray set, and if you can get the I believe it's specifically the Viavision Australian Blu-ray set. If you can find that set for a decent price, that is kind of the definitive Blu-ray set that you want, because that's not missing any like episodes or anything. But yeah, so there you go, SeaQuest DSV. Again, if you've never seen it, I would highly recommend it. It is a very fun show. It's not like groundbreaking or anything, but if you just like yourself, you're a big fan of that, Star Trek Next Generation and those kind of 90s sci-fi shows and stuff, SeaQuest DSV is definitely one that you should check out. It is a great show. There's a lot of good characters and stuff on it. Jonathan Radis is really great in the series. I think this is probably I would say this is like the highlight of his career, acting career wise, and his character is actually generally likable. And there's a lot of really great characters on Salt. Like I mentioned, Michael Ironside was really great in the series. It's a shame that we didn't get to see more of him. But yeah, but it is a very good show. I would recommend it. Yeah, so until then, the next retrospective. Should consume as much entertainment as humanly possible. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.